Heidi Bound, coming to you from New York City, and I am here doing my very first Art Anthology YouTube tutorial. So today I'm going to show you one of my very favorite things to make. I actually consider them very therapeutic, and sometimes when I have a little bit of a creative block going on, I'll sit and make a few of these mixed media flowers. So today I'm going to show you how to make these flowers using some wonderful products from Art Anthology. So first thing you'll need is some paper. It could really be any paper. The thinner the paper, I think the easier they are to make. So I'm grabbing some of this Learn How to Write paper. I buy this by the packs because I love it. I don't know, I guess it brings me back to my childhood, and plus I work in an elementary school, so I like the vibe of the paper. And what you're going to do is take your paper, and I just have a Ranger nonstick mat here. You can put this into a spray bucket, whatever you want. And I grabbed 5 fall colors of Art Anthology coloration spray. This one is a yellow tone, and this one is called Timeless. I grabbed, this one is a Gen Star, and this one's Sangria. Sort of a wine-ish red color. Another fall, I like a little pop of purple, so this one is Plush. Love this color. Paprika, another one that Gen Star came up with the color. There it is, like a, your paprika color, sort of a rusty orange. And then the last one that I picked is Fern Leaf. So what I'm going to do first is I have my paper here. And what we want ultimately is a square shape, but I'm going to use this rectangle because once I cut it off into a square, then I will use this piece that's all sprayed in my art journal. I could make it into a scallop border or do something else with it later. So I'm going to take my sprays. There's no rhyme or reason to this. And I'm going to spray my paper. You may want to dry between colors just so things don't get muddy. So far we have the paprika and the fern leaf. And let's add Timeless. Trying to cover my paper with all of these beautiful colors. And again, I'm using fall colors. You can use whatever combination you want. And I'll dry between the colors just so they don't mix too much and start to get muddy. This way they're going to layer nicely on top of each other. Now, of course, that's beautiful already with just those 3 colors, but I'm going to keep going and add some Sangria. Try to get these white areas. That's so pretty. And then Plush, which is turning out to be one of my favorite Art Anthology spray colors. All right, so let's dry that the rest of the way, and I'll be right back to show you the next step. All right, so now I have my beautiful paper all colored up with these great fall colors. You could do the back if you want to. I'm not going to for the sake of this demonstration, but you certainly can. There's really no rules. There are no rules around this, so whatever feels right to you. Now, my paper here is 12 by 9, and I found that these flowers work best if you have a square. So, of course, I want my square to be 9 by 9. Now, I can take this to my cutter and cut it, or an easy way to make a square is to just fold one corner up. And we'll cut this part off. This piece here, like I mentioned earlier, I'll hold on to this. This will be a great little thing to add into my art journal, just as a pop of color somewhere, or maybe I'll layer that in a collage. So we'll put that off to the side. And now I have my 9 by 9 square. So your next step is to grab your scissors. Now this is a great way to not only use your regular scissors, but to dust off those Fiskars decorative scissors that I know we all have in our stash. The ones that look like this. You can experiment with these scissors as well. For today, just to show you the basic concept behind the mixed media flowers, I'm going to show you just with regular cutting with scissors. So your next step with this is to take your corners and just round them. It's not an exact science, but you just want to round them off a little bit. There we go. And again, you can throw these away, or you can use these in the corners of your art journal, which I'm going to put over here, and I'm in one of those moods just to glue random things into my art journal today. Alright, so now I have my square with my corners evened off, and because I teach, or I did teach, I don't teach anymore, but elementary school, we would say that you're cutting this now like a snake. So I'm cutting around to ultimately make this like a spiral. Now today's video, of course, I'm going to show you how to do the flower, and in the next video from me, I'll be using these flowers with the fabulous products from Art Anthology to make a project with them. In my studio, I have a little crystal bowl with my other supplies, and I have a collection of these flowers in all shapes and sizes. Some have spray, some are painted. I usually stick a piece of paper into my spray bucket, and then as I spray maybe flowers, things like that, the paper is in there and gets all sprayed up as well, and I use those papers to make these flowers, so I always have some on hand. So now I have my spiral. There we go. And I've just found from making them, I like to cut the end off of it just to give a nice sharp edge. Now here is where you need a small paintbrush. You could use a paintbrush. I've also done it where I've used a chopstick. Anything that you have with like a really slender handle like this will work. Now, the best way to get a good result with this is to start, and what you want to do is to roll your gorgeous color on the inside. Okay, and what you may want to do if you want to try these is to watch the video straight through to get an understanding of what the final process and the final product will be, and then go back, watch it again, and try some on your own. So what I'm doing is rolling, I'll get a little closer, my spiral around my paintbrush, and you're making that color disappear on the inside. Now, this is where some people go, this is frustrating and I can't do it. The goal is to, just like a regular flower, is to keep the bottom of the flower nice and even, as if, it was kind of coming out of the ground. Imagine the ground is here, and your flower is even to the ground, and of course now your petals on top can be wispy and kind of all over the place. So try as you're going along and rolling this to keep it nice and tight onto your paintbrush, and to keep rolling so that the bottom of your flower, this is the top, is staying as even as you can. You could see some sort of wonky things happening along the top of my flower, and that's okay. Just keep your goal, keep your eye on rolling it so that the bottom can be as even as possible. And if you notice, just to kind of back up a little bit, I did my spiral, but at the end of it I gave myself sort of this little circle area, and that'll be a base. You'll see that happen in just a minute. So I'm going to keep on rolling this around. And if it starts to get uneven along the bottom, I just take a minute, or a second, I guess, and I try to even that out. Now you'll see, like I said, some crazy things are happening here along the top. If you have to pull it back, that's fine. You just want to try to keep the bottom as even as you can. And as I mentioned, I used my regular scissors for this. You can certainly use some of the Fisker scissors, and as you get more comfortable with this process, experiment. Experiment with different papers. Experiment with your different colors of sprays, different scissors. I do find, though, that the thinner papers work better for this process. I've done it with thicker scrapbook papers, and although the end results are really cool, it does get a little bit tricky to work with. Not impossible. So, you know, once you get the basic idea, feel free to experiment. So I keep rolling it, keep trying to even it out along the bottom. You can see the bottom of it here. Hopefully the camera's picking that up. It has a nice spiral inside, and the top is kind of all over the place. And we're not looking for perfection here, but it'll work much easier if you strive to keep the bottom in kind of an even spiral. And again, remember your color's on the inside, but if you want to spray both sides of your paper, you can. I could have actually, over top of my spray, I could have taken some of the Art Anthology, either the sorbets or the velvet paints, and done some, you know, flicks of paint on there. I could have painted some little areas. We are going to use that paint at the end, but I wanted to keep it kind of simple just so that you can see the basic idea. Now, as we're getting near the end here, I'm going to take my paintbrush out, carefully hold on to it, and now I'm going to keep spinning it until I reach that base. Our next step is gluing. So let me plug in my hot glue gun and I'll be right back. Alright, so my hot glue gun is heating up, and now I have this sort of little tower of spiral here. And again, this is why you want this bottom part to be nice and flat. It's going to be sitting upon your base here. So what we're going to do, I'm going to bring this down to my table, and without letting it go completely, I want to loosen it up a little bit, kind of unspinning it. Okay, you can see that loosening up there. You're not completely unrolling it, but you want to loosen it up so that we have some paper to play with here. Alright, so now that you have it kind of loose, you can see I've got lots of pieces in there that are still pretty tight, and that's perfectly fine. I can go a little looser with this one actually. Okay, so now I have my base, and that's where I'm going to take my hot glue gun and put a nice puddle of hot glue there, as well as on the side a little bit, so that I can sit my flower onto that little pool of hot glue. Okay, now that's not the prettiest down there at the bottom, but that's okay. We're not really going to see that eventually. So that's what I have now. I will also go into the center. I didn't leave myself a whole ton of room on this one, but you can actually squirt a little hot glue down into the center of the flower just to get it to kind of drip down. And if it feels a little bit too loose for you, add a little more glue. You can use a wet glue with this, but I find that the hot glue just works faster for me. Then I'm not standing there having to hold this thing. Okay, so now I still have that sort of tower shape, and you can leave it like this. I've done them where I'll cut my spiral, like the parts of the spiral not quite as thick, a little thinner, and then you can make a little flower that sits, you know, it would be kind of half the size of this. Again, experiment. But with this one, I want to show you my next step. So I have my little flower, and this is where I want you to sort of embrace your paper as sort of like a moldable clay. And here I'm taking my nice big spray bottle of water, and I'm wetting this little guy. I don't really clean my craft mat too much, so it's probably going to pick up some of the other colors I've used on other projects, and that's okay. Keep that spray bottle pretty handy. And now that it's wet and you're thinking about it like clay, I start kind of from the bottom and start rolling those petals out. If they tear, it's okay. It actually adds to the mixed media look of your flower. And now you can see why we were putting that color on the inside. You could do this with paper, scrapbook paper as I mentioned. You can do this with coffee filters. The sky's the limit, really. You can kind of experiment. And you can see how this is really sticking up right here. Get in there with a little more water, get it wet, and continue. I may have to tear these a little bit. I will also take it and like squish it down. So again, think of it like clay, and how would you mold clay? And you could see my flower starting to take shape. I'm going to bring some of this by tearing it. And at this part of the process, that's where I spend time wetting it, playing with the flower. You can see it's really looking quite cool, I think. Now this is very high as far as the base, so getting some water on that, wetting that. I like to keep picking the petals up a little bit though, just to keep that dimension. They don't become all squished together and look kind of flat. At this stage in the game, you could certainly come in and add more sprays if you wanted to. So I kind of have a little cabbage rose thing going on here. There we go. And I'm pretty happy with that already. Has some nice dimension. It would look great on a canvas. Alright, I'm going to go and dry this, and I'll come back and show you a few little ways that you can jazz this little guy up even more. Alright, I'll be right back. Alright, so there's our little flower, and I got nice and close so I could show you my next steps. The next thing that I have here is the Art Anthology, and this is the Sorbet dimensional paint. This one is Dazzle, so it has some nice, look at that shimmer. Ooh la la. Alright, so I'm going to take that and a brush. This is just a small brush, and I'm using it. Oops, am I in there? There we go. Hi. I'm not usually zoomed in this closely, so hopefully I get everything in there for you. Okay, so I'm going to take my brush and get some of this great looking paint and go around on my flower. And this paint will dry clear. Oop. Get in the frame there, Heidi. Okay. If you hear some strange munching sounds, I'm not eating while I'm doing this. One of our Pomeranians is under the table eating a bone. Whenever I'm in my studio, he has to be here to check out what I'm doing. And yes, there have been times where he has left the studio sprayed with blue and purple and pink, and I guess he's used to it. Or he likes it maybe, I don't know. Okay, so you can see I have a nice coating of that paint. And I'll be right back when that dries so I can show you the results. Okay, so there's my sparkly little flower. Love it. And I could be done here, or what I'm going to do is come in with the Art Anthology Dimensional Crystals, and this one is, yeah, Sunbeam. And I'm just going to do a few little dots here. Boom, 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 boom. And always do an odd number. So I have 5, 6, and 7. I could do more on here if I want. I'm going to kind of flatten them out a little bit. Oh, sorry. Okay. So there we go. That's the last step. There are lots of other things you can do with these flowers as well. You could add beads in the center if you want. You could add glitter. I like doing the glitter through the paints. That makes it easier for me to brush it on. And let me get the lid on this without me squirting it everywhere. Alright. So that's our little mixed media flower for today. Hopefully you enjoyed that tutorial and you'll try some on your own. If you do, please let us know on the Art Anthology Facebook page. We would love to see the pictures of your little mixed media flower creations. So thanks for joining us and have a great weekend and go make some art. Bye everybody.
Day is